Today we're going to be making this chicken project, chicken amigurumi. It is completely no-sew for the comb, the beak, and the wings, and all done in one piece. And here's an off-white option I've done, and then I also have a variegated option. So this can be done in many different yarns. Let's check out the supplies we're going to need for today. I've got a red yarn for the comb on the top. I have an off-white yarn that I'm going to be making today's chicken in. And this is Big Twist Cuddle Yarn in Winter White. Next up, I've got a gold or yellow color that I'm going to be using for the beak. And this is Big Twist Cuddle Yarn in Gold. Now both of these Big Twist Cuddle Yarns were on clearance at my store, so I'm not sure if you'll still be able to find those at Joann. We're also going to need a tapestry needle, a stitch marker, a pair of sharp scissors. I'm going to be using a stitch counter, and you just push down on this and it counts your rows, and then you can also lock it if you don't finish this project all at one time. For today's yarn, I'm going to be using an I size 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, but if I were using a Bernat blanket, I would use a size 6 hook. We're also going to need safety eyes and their backs. I do not recommend these if you're making a project for a child who is still putting toys in their mouth. If you're doing that, I recommend using a worsted weight 4 yarn and making a circle with a magic ring and 6 or 8 stitches, and then embroidering that on because that's safer for kids who are still chewing on their toys. We're also going to need stuffing. Hey guys, welcome back to Crafts Go Bloom. My name is Krista, and let's get started on this chicken. Today I'm going to be starting with my off-white color because I want an off-white chicken. And for round 1, we need to make 7 single crochets into a magic ring. To make a magic ring, you're going to lay the tail of your yarn over your hand like this, pinch it with your thumb, wrap around 3 fingers, and pinch that X. Go across the back of your hand and grab it with your pinky. Now we're going to take our crochet hook, go under the first loop, grab the second and twist it. And then we're going to pull through the yarn that was being grabbed by your pinky. And now we've got our magic ring. And we need to do 7 single crochets inside of it. So I did 1, and the way you're going to do that is to insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that's how you're going to do a single crochet for the rest of this project. Alright, I've done my 7 single crochets into the magic ring, and if you notice the difference here, I have turned off my fancy camera light because it's actually washing out these stitches, and I want you to be able to see what we're doing for the rest of this project and to see it in better detail, so we're going to work with natural lighting in this video. Now to finish out this magic ring, once you have your 7 single crochets in it, you're going to pull on this tail. It should pull nice and easy. Don't pull too hard because you can break off your yarn. And that's the end of round 1. And that's how my stitch counter works. I'll be clicking this off camera so that you don't have to hear it, but I'll be using that. You can keep track of where we're at up here. Now for round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch. And that just means that we're going to do 2 single crochets in each of the 7 stitches that we have. 2 times 7 is 14, so by the end of the round you should have 14 stitches. And this is the point where I like to bring in my stitch marker, and I'm going to go back to that first stitch that we made. So we just did 2 single crochets in there, and I'm sticking this in the first single crochet that we made. Now I'm changing things, and I'm going to remove my stitch marker and I'm going to put it in that final stitch that we made, and that's just how I like to move my stitch marker around. That's how it helps me count my rounds, but do whatever works for you. Now we're moving on to round 3, and we're going to do an increase and then a single crochet, and we're going to repeat that 7 times for a total of 21 stitches. So we have 1, 2 in the same stitch, and then we're going to just do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Now we've got 3 stitches, so we're going to do 4 and 5 together, and then 6 on its own, and keep repeating that until you have 21 stitches around. For round 4, we're going to increase and then do 2 single crochets 7 times. So we've got 1, 2 in the same stitch, and then 3 and 4 are separated out. And keep repeating until you've got 28 stitches in the round. I finished round 4. Now for rounds 5, 6, and 7, we're just going to single crochet 28 times in the round. So do that for 5, 6, and 7, and meet me back here. Okay, I finished round 7, and the top of the head is starting to take shape. Now, going on to round 8, we're going to start by single crocheting 12. When you get to that 12th single crochet, we are not going to pull the yarn through like we normally would. We're going to switch colors on that last stitch. So grab your color for your beak, and we're going to pull up a loop of that to finish off that 12th single crochet. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be working in the front loop only of, this would be stitch 13. So if you're not sure how to do that, insert your hook, pull apart those 2 loops that make the 1 stitch, and find out where that is, and we're only going through that front loop. Now I'm also going to be crocheting over our 2 tails right now. If that's too confusing for you, you can just move those out of the way, but I'm just going to place them over the top. And in that front loop, we're going to make 1 single crochet. We're going to do 1 half double, which means we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And then we're going to do 1 last single crochet in that same stitch. But since this is our last stitch and we need to switch back to our white color or the main body color, we're going to drop the beak color and finish off that last single crochet for the beak by pulling up the white. And then make sure that you're going back to a regular single crochet for the next, we're going to be doing 15 more of these, 15 single crochets on the other side of the beak. Now for round 9, we're going to do 12 single crochets, and when we get to the beak, we'll do 1 underneath of it, and then we will do 15 single crochets to finish the round. So I'll meet you back when we get to the beak. Okay, I've done my first 12 single crochets, and now we're going to go under the beak and find that back loop only that was left from round 8. Holding these tails down and out of our way, we're going to single crochet 1 in that back loop, and that's that. And then we're going to do 15 more single crochets to finish out this round. Now is a great time to go ahead and cut the tail on the beak color, so we can get that out of our way and won't be in our way for the rest of this project. And I'm also going to tie a couple of knots just to secure this and keep it from wiggling around in my project. And those will just hang there like our other tail, and we'll just tuck them inside the project at the end. Now for round 10 and round 11, we're just going to do 28 single crochets a round. So do 2 more rounds of 28 single crochets, and I'll meet you back here. For round 12, we're going to do an increase and then 3 single crochets, and we're going to repeat that 7 times all the way around for a total of 35 stitches. Okay, we finished round 12. Now for round 13, we're going to increase and then do 4 single crochets. Now if you'd like to see any behind the scenes pictures of patterns that I've got coming out or anything like that, go check out my Instagram. There's a link below. It's just Crafts Go Bloom Shop, same thing as here on YouTube. And I'm always on there posting other projects that I'm making and upcoming patterns and things that are going to be for sale in my Etsy shop. For round 14, we're going to do 5 increases in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got those 5 increases, and increases 2 single crochets in each stitch, so we've got 10 single crochets so far. Now we're going to single crochet 34, which is going to get us pretty far around here, and then we're going to do 3 increases at the very end. I wanted to mention this again just in case it's confusing anybody. This is showing what round we've just completed. So while it says 14, I'm going to be giving instructions for round 15, because that way if we set the project down and we come back to it, I know I finished 14, it's time to move on. So now for round 15, we're going to do 7 increases. Find that first stitch there. And if you're enjoying this, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. I make a lot of videos like this about original patterns, where I have the entire pattern in a walkthrough, and I also do things like showing you everything I've crocheted in that month and yarn hauls and things like that. When you finish those 7 increases, you're going to single crochet 40 and then do another 3 increases at the end of the round, and you're going to have a total of 60 stitches. For round 16, we're going to start off with 20 single crochets, and then I'll meet you back here to show you how we're going to start doing the wings. Okay, I started over here. I've got those first 20 stitches. Now to make the wings on this chicken, we're going to skip the first stitch, go to the next stitch, and we're going to be working in that front loop only. And we're going to be making treble stitches in that front loop only. So we're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is 1 treble crochet or a triple crochet, depending on what you call them. So make 4 more of those into that same stitch. And after you have your 5 treble crochets, make sure you skip the next stitch, leave it alone, and then go into that second one after the wing. And we are going to single crochet 22. When you finish crocheting those 22 single crochets, we're going to do a repeat for them of the same thing we did in the first wing. So we're going to skip a stitch, yarn over twice, grab the front loop only, and do those 5 treble crochets. Then same thing again when we're done, we're going to skip a stitch, and then we're going to do 12 single crochets to finish out this round. Now that we've finished round 16, we're going to take a break and add our safety eyes. We're adding these between rounds 7 and 8, about 3 to 4 stitches apart. We just want to make sure that we've got our beak centered in between the 2 eyes. So we're going to hold on to that and push it through, and then you see the back of the safety eye there, or the pokey part of the safety eye, and then we're going to take the backing for it. We're going to push that down until it clicks, and then the eye won't come out. And for right now, this pattern is really looking like the matching chick that goes along with it. I have a tutorial for this on my YouTube channel, and both of these patterns will be linked in my Etsy shop as well if you'd like the printable. We're going to finish out the Mama Maran so that she has a lot more details, but there is a chick that goes along with it. Now while we're taking a break from the main body crocheting, we are actually going to stop and put the comb in the top. And this is what it's going to look like at the end. We're going to start in round 2. If you look right here, you can see round 1 of this finished one, and we're going to go to round 2, and we're starting right in between the eyes, or if you'd like to count up, The eyes are between round 7 and 8, so we can say 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and then right there between 3 and 2 is where we're going to be starting. So the first thing we're going to do is make a slip stitch and join our yarn to our project. And I like to fold this in half so I can really see where that center is. And just like I showed you on the finished one, we're going to go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and here's 2. Or here's our main circle, and then we're going to go down. Whichever one makes more sense for you. And we're going to actually put our yarn on our hook, not on our finger. That's not very helpful. Now, 1, 2, and we're going in the center. And to surface crochet, you're going to insert your hook and just pretend like this is your stitch that you're going through. Now, you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. But what I want you to be careful of is that you don't hook your yarn all the way over here and then try to pull up a loop, or you're going to see this sticking out at the end and you're going to have a white gap there. So you want to make sure, or whatever color your main body is, you want to make sure that you are pulling that yarn pretty tight to where the hook is and then making your single crochet so that we just see where it's attached. We don't see it wrapping around any part of the project. So that was our first surface single crochet, and we're going to do 4 more. So next we're going from round 1 into the center. Same thing, it's very tempting to hook your yarn around part of your project, but you're going to have big gaps, so watch out for that. That's 2. Next you're going to be going in the center and to the back of round 2. Make sure we're folding this the whole time so that we're getting it nice and straight. We don't have to redo it. And then we're going to go on to the next one. That's 4, and then we need a 5th. Now before I go on, I like to remove my hook, open it up, and make sure you're happy with the placement of where it's going. You can see with that tail, it's very easy to see it's hanging down. We're in the center of the beak, and we want to go line that up with the center of the tail in the back as well. We don't want the comb to be sticking off in either direction or very curved. We want it to look nice and straight. So if we add our hook back in, the first thing we're going to do is chain 1 and turn. So we're going to flip the chicken over. I think it's a little nicer to keep working with this folded in half, kind of like we're working on a blanket or something else that's flat, but it doesn't matter anymore because now we've got that first foundation row laid down, so we know where we're going. Now for row 2, we're going to skip the first stitch and do 5 double crochets in the next. So we're skipping that chain on the hook, and then we're skipping that first stitch here as well. So we're going to go into, not this one, but the next one, and we're going through both loops, just a usual double crochet. Now to do a double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So now we've got 2 and we need 5. The next thing we're going to do is slip stitch in that center stitch on here. It's the 3rd stitch of your comb. Then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do 5 trebles in the next stitch. Okay, we've got our 5 trebles, and now we're going to slip stitch in the last stitch. Now we're just going to finish off. So I'm going to chain 1. That's really personal preference, how you like to finish that off. Cut off that red yarn and pull that through. And the reason I like to do this while we're still in the middle of the project is because I want to pull these 2 tails inside and knot them. So I'm going to stick my hook up through there, and I'm going to pull one of these tails down on one side of the comb and pull one down on the other side. And now we'll be able to turn this inside out and double knot these very tightly. This is going to completely secure the comb and remove any reason for having to sew anything on or even weave in any of those ends. And that is really starting to take shape and look nice. So let's get back to our main color now. We're done with any extra colors that we might be using. And see, we stopped here in our project. We know that we completed round 16, so it's time to move on to round 17. And for round 17, the first thing we're going to do is single crochet 20, and then I'll meet you back here when we get closer to the wing. After you finish those first 20 single crochets, the next thing we're going to do is go under this wing and single crochet one in the skipped stitch from the last round. So we'll go under here and insert your hook into that single crochet there. And just do a single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet in the back loop that is underneath the center of the wing. Remember, we did all of these into the front loop, and so now we're going to do one single crochet in that back loop from round 16. And then the same thing on the other side. We're going to do one single crochet in that skip stitch from round 16. We're going to single crochet 22 until we get to the other side. Do the exact same thing with the wing, where you single crochet in the skip stitch, single crochet in the back loop, single crochet in the skip stitch, and then do 12 single crochets, and you'll have a total of 60 stitches, and I'll meet you here at the end of round 17. Okay, I'm at the end of round 17. Now for rounds 18, 19, and 20, we're going to do 60 single crochets around. So I'm going to finish those 3 rounds and I'll meet you back here. We're back for round 21. Now the first thing we're going to do is 8 invisible decreases. And what that means is we're going to go into the front loops of the next 2 stitches first. Then we're going to yarn over and pull it through both of those, and then yarn over again and pull it through both loops. And that is an invisible decrease. We're going to do that 8 times. Then we're going to single crochet 14, do another 6 invisible decreases, 12 single crochets, and then 3 invisible decreases at the end for a total of 43 stitches. And if that sounded a little crazy to try and remember, don't worry. Like always, everything's here at the top of the screen so that you can pause and work through that, and then meet me back here when you're finished. As you can see, if you're following along, we're really starting to get that chicken tail feather shape happening here, and we're closing up that bottom. Now we finished round 21. For round 22, we're going to do 3 invisible decreases, 14 single crochets, 5 invisible decreases, and then 13 single crochets to finish out the round for a total of 35 stitches. So I'm going to work on that and get back to you. Let's take a little break here and talk about pattern writing and the shape of this chicken. As you can see, it's starting to sort of slope upwards in the back, and if you look at that hole on the bottom where you've been working, you can see that. So for rounds 23, 24, and 25, they're not actually rounds. We are going to turn them into rows. So we're going to do a few crochets over here, then we're going to chain one and turn and work back this direction. And we're kind of closing up this hole and flattening it out so that it doesn't end up sitting sideways when we're finished. So for round 23, we are going to single crochet 10, now when you have finished single crocheting those 10, we're going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn our project around entirely. And we're going to be working from the inside for a little bit. Now for round 24, we're going to skip that slip stitch. So skip over that stitch, and we're going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do 4 invisible decreases. When you finish those 4 invisible decreases, we're going to hit the stitch marker, so you can just go ahead and take that out. Next, we're going to do 3 single crochets. And then we're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and turn. You put your stitch marker back in for round 25. We are going to go all the way around, and we're not going to turn anymore. We're just going to keep working in rounds for the end of this. So the first thing we're going to do is skip that slip stitch and chain, excuse me, not chain, we're going to single crochet 3, invisible decrease 3, now we're going to single crochet 10, and we're going to work down the side of the last stitches here. So we're going to put 1 here, 1 in the side of that row that we just finished, so that's 2. We'll stick 3 down here, keep going until you have 10. Once you finish the 10 single crochets, we're going to do 3 more invisible decreases across the front. And then 10 more single crochets. Now it's time to start stuffing the chicken. I would start stuffing the head first and move down the body. When you get to the tail, before you put stuffing in it, it has these little almost like dimples on the side. We want to push those out. We want this to be a rounded shape. If you look at the finished product here, we're looking for this smooth round shape all the way around. If you don't push that out, it's going to dimple in. If that's what you'd prefer, then go ahead and do it that way, but I'm going to be pushing them out. As I was in the process of adding my stuffing, I realized that my skein ended, even though my skein is not all used up, it was cut somewhere in the center. So I just went ahead and grabbed the end, tied it off in a knot, and we'll crochet around that and hide these on the inside, and we won't ever notice that, just in case you see that popping by and you wonder why I have a giant knot in my working yarn. Now, for round 26, we're going to single crochet 1 and then do an invisible decrease. We're going to repeat that pattern 9 times, and then at the end we're going to single crochet 2, and we'll have 20 stitches total going around. For round 27, we're going to do 10 invisible decreases. We'll have 10 stitches at the end of the round, and keep stuffing as you go. I've got kind of an empty space here, but I'm going to get about halfway around and then stuff it so that I've got something kind of covering that and it's not popping out the entire time I'm trying to make my stitches. So finish round 27 and I'll meet you back here. Alright, we can remove that stitch marker and cut a long tail that we're going to weave in and sew this because we still have a little bit of a hole in the bottom. So we're going to thread our tapestry needle, and I designed this to have this hole in the bottom on purpose, and we're going to be going through these front loops all the way around. And the reason that a hole on the bottom is helpful and needs to be sewn up is because this helps the project lay a little flatter on the bottom. With this bulky yarn, if we continued to crochet, we would end up with a point on the bottom and it would never really sit flat. So once you get all of those sewn, just go ahead and pull that tight. Now it's tempting, and I see a lot of advice to push your needle in here, pull it out over there, cut the thread and be done, or cut the yarn and be done. But I really encourage you to come over here and don't cut it off right now, but go through some of these loops. And bonus points, if you go one direction, go up around, and then go the other direction. Do not pull this so tight that you start changing the shape of your amigurumi. That's not what we're going for. But what we are going for is weaving in that tail to the point that any little fingers that might get a hold of this won't just pull them right on out. Now the hope is, you know, when you're making something like this, that it's going to sit and stay clean and never have any little hands poking through it. But the reality, I know as a mom, is that at some point it will need washed, and at some point someone is going to try and stick their little fingers in there. And when they do, if all you did was stab your needle in, pull it out the other side, suddenly you're going to have a customer who's got a string hanging out, and they may not know how to deal with that. If they bought it from you, they're probably not a crocheter. They probably aren't sure exactly what to do with that, so they're just going to cut it off, and then you're going to have a little tail hanging out forever. But weaving it in this way is going to keep it nice and tight, and it becomes part of the fabric then. And when I've done it this way, my kids never seem to wiggle those loose, and they don't come out when they're in the wash either, which inevitably will happen. And we've got our finished chicken, guys. Don't forget, I've got another pattern that you can find in the description below for, this is Baby Chip, the matching chick to go with the hen, Mama Maran. And a bunch of these are going to be available in my Etsy shop if you would like to purchase these finished products as well. So thanks for hanging out, guys. I really enjoyed this today, and I hope to see you in the next video.